we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Sarge, and with me is fairly regular person for the streams is Archon.
What's up?
Archon is someone that I don't feel like introducing, so I'm just going to go ahead and just get this going. We're talking about Dragon Ball Multiverse, and if you have not seen it, Dragon Ball Multiverse is a thing that has been on the internet for a little while. I've talked about it at least 2 times before in a stream. Go ahead and check those ones out. I'll maybe link it below if you want to see the very first episode. So anyway, the last time we talked about it was with James, another regular person, and we had gotten up to, I believe, the Gas Gargle chapter where Gas Gargle has destroyed the Frieza Empire, and that I think was the latest one. So Archon, you were introduced to Dragon Ball Multiverse fairly recently, so you want to go ahead and just kind of lay down what your thoughts on the fan comic?
I think it's pretty interesting because similar to how when GT came out, there was kind of like when Dragon Ball GT came out. Even though GT isn't canon, it's still interesting because it provides another version of the universe from a different standpoint. So it's always interesting to see how things would turn out, and it brings to the table multiverse and alternate dimensions and crap like that. So that's always interesting.
Yeah. Um, I like the what if scenarios. I think those are probably my favorite aspects of the comic thus far, just because it's one of those things that allows for a sort of kind of speculation approach, if you will.
Right. Although you don't have a very high opinion of King Cold's third form face, do you?
Third form base, like they talk about when he transformed against Videl.
I don't know if it was against Videl, but yeah, basically Frieza's final form is King Cold's third transformation. His face in that, yeah, it's freaking weird.
It didn't bother me too much, but it was kind of like a little awkward looking. Kind of almost
Hmm.
reminded me of like the Joker a little bit. I don't know if you could probably see that. It just kind of looks kind of strange. But so we were kind of talking right before we got onto this little recording. We were talking about the Super Saiyan 3 aspect and the way Super Saiyan 3 works in the comic. You want to go ahead and break down some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so basically within the comic, how they describe it, and there's multiple other scenarios too. Basically, the higher power level you have, basically the more powerful you are. So, like, let's say Gogeta goes Super Saiyan 3 because he's a more powerful entity. It becomes a lot harder for him to maintain Super Saiyan 3 for a longer period of time for Deus Ex Machina reasons.
Yeah,
Because it puts a strain on the body or whatever their reasoning is. It's silly.
yeah. They explain it at a certain point in the story. I think it's when Gotenks is fighting himself, and it more or less just kind of comes out as a very shoehorned reason for why the Super Saiyan 3 can't last very long. I don't understand the logic of the more powerful you are, the more it tends to drain, so that you can only use it for like 5 seconds if you're an extremely powerful person. I don't understand that. And we were trying to kind of wrap our brains around this one, and I used the example of Brawley as a person who is in the comic. He's extremely powerful, but you don't see his power being so extremely overwhelming that it just bursts through his body or drains him. And I know they explain that that's supposed to be a different type of transformation. I don't really get the reasons for why one works in one mechanic and the reason why one works the other one. Were you able to wrap your head around that at all?
Slightly. In the fact that, because, I mean, you can still be more powerful as a Super Saiyan, as a Super Saiyan 2. So, like, for example, um, Goku in the Cell Saga was technically stronger than Vegeta was, because and we're not taking into account that technically Goku can reach a higher level than Vegeta at that point too, because there's basically 3 ascended forms in between Super Saiyan 1 and Super Saiyan 2. Trunks had the ability to go to the first stage and the second stage. Goku was able to reach all 3. I don't think Gohan was able to reach any of them because he basically just got Super Saiyan, and that was it. And then Super Saiyan 2 later on, but that's another story. But Vegeta fought at, the first stage because, the limitation of the second stage and third stage were that your muscles were so fucking huge that it slows you down by an insane amount, which is, understandable. That's a smart thing to do. Raise your power as high as you can without having any negative effects. But even then, Goku and Vegeta both spent an equal amount of time in the hyperbolic time chamber, but Goku, as a regular Super Saiyan, was arguably stronger and faster than Vegeta was in the first stage transformation.
Are you talking Vegeta or Trunks?
I'm talking about Vegeta.
Okay, because Vegeta wasn't the one that got so powerful that he bulked up and then couldn't move. That was Trunks.
Right. I'm well aware, okay. but that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that technically stage 1 of the Ascended Saiyan transformation, the one that Vegeta fought Cell in and lost, and then Trunks stepped in and went to the second stage. The stage that Vegeta fights in because he realizes that the stage above it is too slow is still technically weaker than what Goku's power level was as just a regular Super Saiyan, because Goku, through whatever methods he trained in, because they don't show exactly what he does. They basically did the montage where it's a time skip type shit. Anyways, he was arguably more powerful because he had a better mastery of the actual form. Like he said, he was able to stay transformed as a Super Saiyan without being powered up. So, in the couple episodes that I guess you could call them filler episodes following up to the tournament itself, when Goku and Gohan were celebrating his birthday and stuff like that, and Goku was able to go fishing with Gohan and Krillin, and both Gohan and Goku were able to stay as a Super Saiyan when they weren't fighting, and it wasn't draining their energy, it's because they both had a mastery over the Super Saiyan stage, while Vegeta and Trunks didn't. And that way, Goku could fight on the same level as, Vegeta could powered up, but it wouldn't be draining any of his energy. Now, that brings into question Broly. Broly, I think, is one of the people that is more closely related to Trunks in that he doesn't give a flying fuck about what negative it has. He'll transform into the legendary stage, which isn't technically canon because it's from the movie, but let's just ignore that for the time being. Legendary Super Saiyan is, at least from what I remember, somewhere above the Ascended Saiyan. It's in between Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan 1. But at the same time, you could argue that it's beyond Super Saiyan 2. But basically, Broly transforms into such a state that he has all this raw physical power, but it slows him down, obviously, because, he's this big, hulking mass of muscle. So he's almost worse than Trunks is at that point.
But he didn't actually have really any of the negative speed effects when he transformed. He was still moving pretty fast in the movie, if I remember correctly.
No, he was slowed down quite a bit. It's just that because he was so much stronger physically, he could take a lot of hits without it affecting him. He was literally like a tank. Nothing they did to him would affect him. And I think the sheer intimidation that he had is why it looked like he moved faster, because the characters like Trunks and Vegeta were so awestruck that he was so much more powerful than them, and that nothing they did anything, that it affected their ability to fight him. Because in the first movie with Broly, it was clear that Vegeta was pissing his pants practically, because he didn't even want to fight Broly until he finally got pissed off and just said, fuck it, I might as well try. Because, there's multiple instances where in the middle of the fight, I don't remember if Vegeta does a final flash, because there were no real, spoken names of attacks, like Gallic Gun or anything like that, besides Kamehameha and stuff like that. But, Vegeta launched this huge energy wave at Broly, and Broly's just fucking, laughing it off, because it just goes right through him and it doesn't do anything to him. And Vegeta's just standing there going, "Oh my fucking god!" And then Broly just grabs him by the face and smashes him into the wall.
I don't think he actually did a Final Flash in that movie. All I remember him doing was just doing a few little
But
fireballs to Brawly's face, and Brawly just kind of keeps walking past him.
well, that's what I mean. Like he didn't technically do a final flash because he didn't declare, final flash. But he did the hand movements. He did the hands in front of him type of thing with the palms towards each other, like he does with a final flash. Basically, he did everything he would normally do for a final flash. He just didn't say final flash.
But it wasn't even as powerful or as big of an explosion either.
Right. But I'm saying, but that's what I mean. He didn't. That's what I'm saying. Unless he actually says it, it's technically not as powerful or not actually the move. But I'm just saying, he basically did that without the actual power behind it. But it still was just blown off by Broly. He didn't even get slowed down. But that doesn't mean that Broly is fast either. He was fast in his first transformation before he actually went to the legendary stage. He was fast in that. But afterwards, they really didn't have any problem staying away from him too much. There were a couple times where he caught them off guard, but I think it might have been one of those situations where it's one of those things where sure, he can move fast, but he's still not as fast as the others. And at the time, they hadn't seen him move fast in that form, and they assumed he was slow. So then when he speeds up a little bit to catch him off guard, it fucks with them a little bit. It fucks with their mind a little bit. But at the same time, he's not fast by any means either, because I believe it's the second movie. I think it was the second movie. My memory's a little jumbled on that, but I seem to remember that in the second movie, Goku isn't really in it until later. So it's mostly Goten, Trunks, and Gohan, and Videl, and a little bit of Piccolo and Krillin. And Gohan comes across Broly, and Broly's transformed into his legendary Super Saiyan state, and he's rushing at Gohan through the water, and or through the lava, I can't remember, but you can just see him moving and chasing after Gohan, and it just doesn't look like he's moving that fast, because Gohan could have easily gotten out of the way, because it just shows Broly flying through the water, creating waves from his energy and shit like that. And then Gohan's just standing there like, I'm going to take it. It's like you could have easily just moved.
Yeah.
Like they played it up because I think they wanted it to they wanted to, I guess, handicap them somewhat to make it more interesting, to showcase Broly's sheer power. But I really don't think Broly was that fast. But anyways, that's kind of off the topic. But
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, we were talking about how the draining effect goes. Because the way they establish in Dragon Ball Multiverse the comic is that Broly continues to get stronger the longer he's in legendary form, whereas all the other Super Saiyan transformations kind of do maybe not necessarily the opposite, but they at least, it puts a wear on the person's body, while Broly's the complete opposite.
Yeah. See, and that's kind of where I was getting into the comparison between a cut diamond where the energy is refined and an uncut diamond where it's not refined. Broly's energy is not refined, and he's not necessarily he doesn't have the mastery of the form like Goku does with Super Saiyan 1. Because when he transforms, he has that slowing effect on his body because he doesn't put any stock to actually mastering the form. He's almost like he's mastered the form less than Vegeta has with Super Saiyan 1 because he has that negative effect to the form.
Sorry about that, folks. Fortunately, the call for Skype dropped. I can't recall exactly what was the last thing he said, but we were kind of just talking about obviously the Super Saiyan 3 aspects, and we're talking about the difference between Broly. And I was actually going to look up the exact quote that the guy who writes the comic, Salinger, this is exactly what he tries to explain the Super Saiyan 3 aspects, so that way we can kind of compare what we would expect it based on the canon of the actual show versus the this version from the fan comic here. So during the fight with Gotenks fighting himself, they both go to Super Saiyan 3, and then they immediately lose power from it because of Super Saiyan 3 runs out. And this is the explanation that's given. Um, and I'm going to link Archon you the page just so you can kind of visually see exactly what it is that I'm reading off here. So
Right.
the character Vegito is watching the fight in the audience, and he says, as the characters lose the power of Super Saiyan 3, Vegito says, "That's the hard truth of level 3, kids. It takes all your power quickly, changes time markers. Now that you are adults and even more powerful, it's even worse. The more powerful you are, the less Super Saiyan 3 holds out."
Yeah, I don't think that's actually backed up by canon, because that shit was similar in GT, because near the end of the series in the Shadow Dragon Saga, when Gogeta goes Super Saiyan 4, it only lasts for 10 minutes. His fusion does. So that's canon within GT, but not within Dragon Ball Z, which is what Multiverse is based off of. But getting back into, was I talking about the cut or uncut diamonds and the refined energy type of shit?
You managed to talk about that for like a few seconds.
Okay, so yeah, back to that. Broly is, Broly is one of those people that doesn't have mastery over the form, and his energy is still powerful, but it's not refined. Did I bring up the sun and laser comparison?
I don't think we got to that, or we heard that.
Okay. So I was comparing, Broly is like the sun. If you stare at the sun long enough, will it blind you? Yes, it's going to ruin your eyesight, there's no doubt. But which would do it faster, the sun or a laser pointer? Probably the laser pointer, because the laser is a much more focused beam of energy. And Goku, as Super Saiyan, is much more refined. He's mastered the form much further than Broly has mastered his. So while Broly is still a lot stronger, it probably puts a much greater strain on his body, and he can't maintain it for quite as long. Because within the movies, I don't think the battle with Broly even lasts that long. Like within the actual universe, I think it's maybe like an hour that the battle goes on. Because I'd have to actually look, because you could actually time it within the series or within the battle, because there's that whole comet coming to destroy the world and everything like that. So, and I believe Paragus says there's only a certain amount of time before the comet hits and the world is destroyed.
So you're basically saying that he probably might have felt the effects in the based on the movie. He would have felt the effects of being Super Saiyan or Legendary Super Saiyan had he fought for a longer period of time.
Right. But the thing is, though, is that I don't think the fact that he's much more powerful is the reason why he can't maintain it. I think it's because he hasn't mastered the form.
See, and that's closer to how I always understood it from the actual show as well.
Right. Yeah. See, I think it might have been a translation error in the series, but from what you said, I don't know if it is that then, because within DBZ, Super Saiyan 3 hasn't been mastered completely yet, even by Goku. And like what I was saying with the whole fight against him and Fat Boo, when Goku first fights Fat Boo, he says that he could technically have killed Boo at that point, but he wanted to give someone else a chance. But he also couldn't maintain that form for very long. Like when he was actually going through the transformation, King Kai, it shows King Kai going, "Don't, you're going to use up all the time you have left." And from what I understand, the whole visitation to Earth while you're dead thing, the time that they give you is basically, I would say it's like a temporary living form that they give you, because within the series, while you're more resistant to damage, because you're not actually being affected, because your body's dead, it doesn't actually have any effects of eat and sleep and shit like that. So it's more resistant to actual harmful stuff. When you when you draw that much energy through that living form, like when transforming to Super Saiyan 3, and it puts a strain on your body that great, it also basically erodes whatever living form you have left that you've been given. Hence why he ran out of time on Earth after he transformed, because it put such a huge strain on that form. But and like what I was saying too before, while the phone was cut off, so it wasn't even in the recording. For example, in GT, while it's still not canon, it still does parallel that a little bit, because when Goku first transforms into Super Saiyan 4, he has to, and even Vegeta to an extent, but Vegeta has mitigating circumstances as well because he was infected by Baby. But Goku has to transform into the Golden Ozaru before he can go into Super Saiyan 4, because the Super Saiyan 4 form has so much power that it basically overpowers his brain, and it turns him into the Great Ape, and his mind becomes like the Great Ape. But once he tames that, basically once he masters that form, quote unquote, and regains his human instincts, he can transform into Super Saiyan 4. So, and that's basically how they explain him able to go from the Golden Ozaru state to the Super Saiyan 4, is he gained some understanding or mastery over the form that he was able to maintain it. And so, I can understand not being able to maintain Super Saiyan 3 for very long because you don't have a lot of experience with it. You haven't trained with it, so your body's not used to it, and it puts a huge amount of strain. But yeah, the sheer idea that you're so much more powerful, so you can't maintain that form for longer is just ridiculous.
And in comparison, since we've been talking about Broly and Super Saiyan 3 a lot, I found a page where they explain Broly's power, and I linked it in the chat sheet so you can see it. So the Kais, if I remember correctly, they're the ones who basically explain it. So I'll just kind of read it. They say, Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. And then, like, the female Supreme Kai, she explains, we studied the previous legendary Super Saiyan 1,000 years ago. Once transformed, he is totally insensitive to attacks, indestructible, and his power increases, rising steadily without any logic. And the guy says, if I remember, it was the three of them, they killed him before his power finished him off. So basically, what is implied here is that once Broly activates to legendary Super Saiyan form, for the comic, at least, it's the idea that he will continue to grow in strength so long as he is in Super Saiyan form. Kind of like how the Hulk, the angrier he gets, the more powerful he gets, right? It's like his power continues to rises so long as he's in the Super Saiyan or the legendary Super Saiyan state. Was that how it was in the movie? I forget. I know Broly said that he was getting stronger, but I don't remember if they said that he would continuously and infinitely continue to get stronger. Yeah, in the movie.
His power, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm probably not going to be 100% certain on this, but his power is constantly rising anyways, but I think that's just because, it's a Saiyan thing, they fight, they get stronger. And
no, but that wasn't what I'm saying, like, I think there's a line in the movie where he says, I'm getting stronger every moment. Like, just being in that activated power state was making his power grow.
Was it the first or second one?
I think it was the first one.
No. Broly almost never talks.
Let me see if I can. I can find it.
Besides going.
Well, he says a few lines. Let me see if I can find the lines because he talks to Paragraphs a little bit. Right when he kills him.
Yeah, when he's under the mind control device of Paragus, he talks a little bit, but it's not much. It's basically he's a pussy whipped little bitch, and he basically is like he only has like maybe 2 or 3 scenes where he actually talks. But as soon as Goku comes along, it basically ends that. Well, okay, he actually does talk a little bit later once he's transformed. but it's mainly just him shit talking Vegeta about how Vegeta's such a pussy.
I'm trying to find the quotes of Brawly. See if I can find it. Here's a YouTube clip that has all his voice clips compiled together.
I won't be able to look at that right now.
Oh wait, this might be. I don't know if this is from the movie or from the games. So, but anyway, all right. So the reason that we bring up Super Saiyan 3, and Brawly was more tangential at best for this. The reason I bring up Super Saiyan 3 is because the fight between evil universe counterpart Vegeta versus Dr. Raichi, which was a pretty interesting fight. It ends with that Vegeta transforming into Super Saiyan 3, getting a boost of energy for like 2 seconds, and then immediately collapsing because Super Saiyan 3 just took its toll on him. And the way that they explain it is not quite the way that you were talking about, because you were more discussing it as in they haven't mastered the form, whereas they explain it in the comic that Vegeta. It's not that he hadn't mastered the form yet; it's that he was so powerful that the form took its toll on him.
Okay.
And I already, obviously we've already kind of been explaining how that doesn't make a lot of sense to us. But that was, let me see if I can find the exact page. So he transforms on like page 941, and then.
Yeah. See, I looked up the quotes for Broly from the first and second movie, and he doesn't say anything about how his power is growing.
Oh, then it might have been like one of the characters talking about it themselves.
Yeah. But what I was saying though is like all Saiyans, like Vegeta says this I think during the Frieza saga. Saiyans get more powerful the more they fight, and Broly is one of those unique cases, similar to what Vegeta was before, in that he's constantly roaming, or at least he was at one point constantly roaming the galaxy, fighting and killing, because that's what he and his father were doing.
But that's not what's being stated, and like what you're talking about is not what they're talking about.
I know, but I'm just saying.
You're talking about the Zenkai boost, basically. Like the more they fight, then they grow stronger from the experience and also from recovering from the battle.
Right, and I'm thinking that might be what they're confusing it as, but I don't know for sure. But at the same time, you've said that that's not what they're even saying. So
well, that's why I've been linking you to pages where they specifically talk about it. I
know, and that's my point though. Like. They've been specifically saying that that's not the case, but I'm just saying that's the closest thing I can think of that they would even be talking about, because they're basically shit up at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's just essentially just fan theories that have taken in place into the story, and that's fine. I mean, it's technically his story. Whether or not it's based on a Dragon Ball Z or it could be based on the Avengers, if it's his own fan story, he's allowed to kind of create the rules as he wants. The problem is that if you want it to be sort of recognized as like a continuation of sorts of the main storyline, when you start recreating the rules as you see fit and not what's actually established in the canon, then everybody can basically say what you're doing here is bullshit because it's not in the actual story. Now, when I say that it's fine that he does that, I'm saying it in the fact that it's his little story. He's allowed to do what he wants, but nobody has to accept it because it's not actual canon. It's not in the actual story.
Right.
When you're using the rules that have been put in place by the actual canon, then it's a little bit more acceptable because it's like technically this is how it was stated in the original story. So all you're doing is just playing around with the rules that are already put in place.
Yeah.
And that's I think one of the main issues I take when it comes to Dragon Ball Multiverse is they sometimes in this comic they will go and sort of create their own rules that didn't seem to be in the actual story or the original story, and they will basically continue to build their story off of these new rules that have been kind of come out of nowhere, and it's sort of like expect everybody just to go along with it, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I see a lot of people in the comment section will say this doesn't make any sense, or this wasn't how it was in the comic. You're creating what you're doing is kind of stupid.
Yeah, basically the way I look at it is it's fine if you want to write it that way, but if you're going to be basing the story, like if you're going to set it within the universe of Dragon Ball Z, the rules need to operate similar to Dragon Ball Z. And when you start breaking away from that, then it starts to not be Dragon Ball Z anymore, and it starts to become your own little, fanfic, which
Right.
not everyone is into, and that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, technically, it is a fanfic, but like as you said, if you're gonna say that this is supposed to be a story that is set in the universe, it needs to play by the rules that were established in that universe.
Right.
If you want to have your own story, then just create your own story and make it very Dragon Ball Z like, and then you can create all the rules you want. But if you're going to say that this is supposed to be the continuation of the actual story set in the same universe, and I know like when I say set in the same universe, I don't mean like the multiverse thing where they're all coming from different universes. I'm saying
Right.
within the same setting,
Reality.
yeah, the same reality. Then they need to have the same rules that would apply, and that's one of the main bones that are one of the main issues I have with the comic. Besides
So
that, a lot of the stuff I really really enjoy, and it's not so much that I against some of his explanations, is that I don't think I think it should be more of like the characters are kind of questioning things rather than stating this is how it is. For instance, Archon, did you saw the androids when Android 18 fought Yamcha?
yeah.
Yamcha, you find out in his universe, was turned into Android 17, and he explains to Android 18, "Hey, your power is decreasing slowly because of XYZ reasons, and pretty soon you will run out of power." And then the creator of the comic, Salger, he stated in the comics this is his explanation for why the androids were weaker in the future versus in the past or the present timeline when they fought the regular Dragon Ball Z cast. Because Trunks states in the show the androids are stronger in this time than they were in my time. What do what do you think of that as an explanation?
Well, before I answer that part, I wanted to kind of go back to what you were saying about the fanfic thing. I think would you agree that it kind of feels like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too a little bit? He's trying to have it be within the reality, but also have the rules that he sets down instead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
see that. I don't know if that's necessarily a conscious thing. I think it's
Right. Yeah.
I think it happens subconsciously, but there are a couple times where it kind of stands out, and that's why I brought up the Android 18 example because this is something where he's like, "Hey, this is how I always thought it was the case, and therefore I'm writing the rules of the show or of this comic to basically apply that." Rather than
Right.
actually going, you coming up with your own theory and running with it, rather than going with the rules that were operated. And that's why I say it would be better to have the characters speculate rather than state as fact things that are merely fan theory. Speculation is
Exactly.
fine because that allows for room of error on your part as the author, and it also allows for the rules to the thought to be thrown out there, but not to be 100% confirmed. Because what happens is that
In short, show them, don't tell them. Right.
yeah, well, no, it's not quite that. When you have the characters speculate a fan theory, then it allows the audience to also speculate it. But when you state it as fact, then when the people who are reading the comic read it, they might think that's bullshit, and they'll go back and they'll find the actual source material from the comics or whatever, and then they'll basically say this is why you're stating this as fact is completely wrong, and it kind of ruins the integrity of the story, if that makes sense. Because
Right. And then
now you have like this little stupid plot hole that you've created unintentionally.
yeah, and then once you start, declaring shit as fact all the time too, you also run the risk of creating paradoxes. Where you counter what you said something earlier in the series as well.
Right.
You always risk, yeah. But
But
yeah,
as
what
far as
the
the
thing,
having the cake and eating it too, I think that's
yeah.
more subconscious on his part. I don't necessarily think he does it necessarily intentional. to
Right. Yeah. I
you
wasn't. I
know.
wasn't saying intention. Yeah. But about the Android thing, um, I'm kind of two minds about it because I can somewhat see how he got that because when you take into account, okay, so let's look at the future Trunks' timeline. Okay, so I don't remember exactly how long the androids were roaming around and causing havoc, but it was probably about 5 years, I guess, maybe a little bit less. But I can kind of see how he would get that idea because there's not really any way to gauge an android's power by the normal way of sensing heat like they normally would, which is one of the problems they ran into in the main series where, oh crap, we can't sense where Dr. Gero is, so we're going to have to go use our eyes. And that's what they did when they searched for 19 and 20 in the city. So I can understand how, Trunks wouldn't be able to gauge their full power when he's fighting them or something.
Right, because they could be of the same power and merely have been playing around with them in the future where he thought they were like weaker because they didn't go full force, but in the present timeline they completely curb stomp him, and that's because they went full force on him in the present timeline. But because he can't gauge their power through sensing their power levels, he's not able to determine whether or not they're stronger or weaker accurately.
Right, but I can also see him. I can also understand why that he might also make the argument that because he's not able to tell how strong they were, it's possible that their energy is degrading over time because those androids actually were active for much longer than the androids in the actual timeline. Because the androids that Future Trunks was used to were active for much longer periods than the ones that he was fighting at the time.
Right. So I found
see that, but I don't think that's the case.
I found the exact quote, and I found a page. So it's page 281. Yamcha is talking to Android 18 why she's not going to be able to defeat him, and he says, for one, we're both androids, but I have more martial arts experience, so I'm a better trained fighter than you. But the more important thing is that you became much less powerful with time. Infinite energy. There is no such thing. Our energy gets down with time, making us weaker and weaker. You just don't realize it. If you don't do a maintenance checkup on your body, in 10 years top, you won't even be able to walk. Now, that's the comic strip quote. Now, Salinger, the writer, he goes and he actually states in the comment section explaining this. And so this is his explanation for that. And he says the cyborgs in Trunks' future are less strong than the ones in the primary DBZ timeline, which is what you saw during the Android season. It's said clearly in the Magna. They are also nicer in the primary universe than in the future timeline. The given explanation is it's different because of the time travels. Some fans speculated that Gero saw Trunks kill Frieza, and seeing that much power, decided to make his cyborg stronger. It's wrong because Dr. Gero didn't know about Super Saiyan. Well, that's true. He's good on that. When Goku transformed in front of him, so he didn't see the Frieza fight against Frieza. This page gives my personal explanation. In fact, the cyborgs are weaker in the future because they are 20 years older and are worn out.
Okay, so the 20 years older and worn out, I can kind of understand, but the problem is that there's massive differences to the timelines as well. Them being nicer in this timeline is like you can chalk that up to personality because the androids have their own personalities as well, and when the androids of the future, because in Future Trunks' timeline, 17 and 18 were the ones that killed Goku. When they have met their main objective that they've been told to do by Gero, to kill Goku, and they have nothing interesting left to do, they have no reason to be generous or anything like that. Because I can understand them not wanting to cause complete havoc if they want to sneak up on their target, or if they want to find out where Goku is first without him running away or something. It's kind of like stalking their prey type of thing. They might not want to throw him off to them coming for him, like causing havoc and leaving a trail. So they might decide, hey, let's play nice for a while. And it's just kind of like, while 17 and 18 were a little bit more cordial, they were still assholes. I mean, they stole a guy's fucking van. Them and 16 stole a guy's van. I'm trying to think of what all
well,
they did.
you could say that that's like assholes behavior, but if I recall correctly, they never killed anybody during the main timeline when other than they were going to go kill Goku, but they didn't kill anybody else. They stole the guy's van, they beat up a few bikers, and they messed with the cops a little bit, but beyond that, it was just mainly kind of more like rebellious teenagers, what you would see from like teenagers that are kind of like fuck the law and gonna do our own rules.
I would disagree because I think that 18 actually killed a trucker while Vegeta and her were fighting.
No, Vegeta killed the trucker. He blew the trucker up.
Didn't she punch down into the truck and then it lost control and then they jumped off?
She might have. Okay, so I guess you could probably get that one. But now compare that to what you see in the movie of Trunks' timeline, where you actually see them going and massacring people en masse.
But again, they have nothing else to do because
right.
They've already killed Goku.
Right. I'm just saying, like, when I got that. I'm just saying when you were comparing their personalities to say, like, well, I mean, both of them seem to be pretty evil. I can understand, though. I think that with the lack of Goku being there as an objective and them just kind of being, even if they were not, let's just say that they weren't programmed to be evil, but they just had it as like a personality thing, and they were basically let loose on the planet. They might just kind of come up with their own morality and decide that they can just do whatever they want. So why should they just follow society? And eventually, it kind of corrupts them and makes them go crazy and continue to kill people without having any sense of empathy or something of that nature.
Right, and you mentioned the whole, like the whole teenager reaction to the fuck the government type of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can make the argument that that's what they're doing in the future timeline too, because if I remember correctly, 18 makes a complaint that 17 killed someone that she liked or something, like I don't even remember, someone, it was something about fashion or something like that. He blew up the last city with a shopping mall or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, they're still not,
You're breaking up for a second. I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. I think it's called City of God, where it's about the gangs that exist down in Brazil or Argentina.
Yeah.
So it's one of the countries down in South America, and it just shows like how these kids grow as they grow up. One kid when he's like 8, 9 years old, he shoots and kills one of the teenage gang members from a gang that they were like fans are like little followers of. He kills that gang leader just because he takes the opportunity to become like to I think grab either something that he wanted from it, or that the guy was asking to get like his gun back from that kid, and the kid shoots the gang member, and then that starts his basically journey to becoming more and more violent. And by the time he's a full-grown adult, he's like this like complete sadistic asshole who basically uses his gang to go and cause havoc and rape people and just get away with a lot of awful shit. And so you could probably make the argument that it's just like a corruption of the youth that over time they get worse and worse without having anybody to check them. Vegeta was a complete fucking straight up asshole until he had gotten banged around a few times by Goku and Frieza and everybody else. And it wasn't until like by the end of the series that he actually started becoming a decent person. So it could be that the androids in the main timeline, like because Android 18, she's Krillin's wife in the main timeline by the end of the series, and she's got a kid with him. It could be that having the missions scrapped of killing Goku due to Cell's interference, and then basically not being the strongest guys around, so they're not able to go and just cause havoc because at least 3 or 4 of the Z fighters could completely kick the shit out of the androids, and then also having interacted with the Z fighters and seeing that they're not so bad, that basically stopped their evil journey in its track, and then they it shifted.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I always kind of saw it.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
They in the main timeline, the androids before they became completely evil, they weren't necessarily designed evil. They're just like two human teenagers that got more or less turned into these killer cyborgs or whatever you want to call them. Uh, they they still have like some form of human morality, but they're just really fucked up and complete evil asshats in the future. But when you have the characters go and interact with them and basically stop them from becoming evil, then they kind of become normal people. Kind of like some people speculate if you could have gone back in time and met Hitler before he became a sadistic asshole who had genocidal delusions, and you more or less had a conversation with him to get him on a different path in life. Could he have become somebody different? Could he have become
Right.
like the German version of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and the other issue I have with it is that um, his his opinion on the infinite energy shit for the androids is basically based off of that Akira Toriyama hasn't come out and specifically said, yes, I meant literally they have unlimited energy. Because, he basically just said limitless energy in the anime, and that's it. He didn't actually put it into context or explain it specifically. And Sail Gear is basically just going, well, it's not really limitless, and it's just kind of like, well, yeah, that's basically you interpreting it your own way at that point.
Right. It's funny. There's actually one person that commented in here. I'm gonna not read the whole comment, but I'm gonna read just towards the end of it. That was just my take on the androids. Yours is fine, except doesn't the claim that there is no such thing as infinite energy sort of defy the laws of your own universe in regards to Brawly? Because apparently there is such a thing,
Yeah.
which is true. Brawly apparently has infinite energy according to the comic. So it's the problem with when you're coming up with your own fan theories. If you were going to use exactly the established rules of the show and the show's inconsistent, well, that's not your fault. You're just using the same rules the show has. But when you start coming up with your own fan theories for it, then it becomes inconsistent, and now the negative attention is drawn towards you.
Right.
But and been nitpicking for like 30, 40 minutes about it. The comic is good. I like it. A lot of the fights are really well done. The artwork on some of them is fantastic. A few chapters have some shitty artwork, but
Right.
the main tournament chapters are always pretty good, with a few panels being really, really fucking well done. This is
Yeah.
just taking qualms with a few parts of the story. Did with the new chapter, the Oob versus Boo. Um, the latest chapter has been them fighting, and Oob has released a super Kamea wave right into Boo's face, and
While he's at maximum Kaioken.
yeah, while he's at maximum Kaioken. So this is, from what I'm understanding, this is Oob going all out to destroy Majin Buu with the biggest, strongest Kamea wave he can muster.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is going to win this fight?
Personally, I think Oob is going to win, but that's basically just off of the most recent page showing him being disintegrated. The only way Boo can still win this is if he was still keeping a copy of him underneath the arena or something like that. That's the only way he could win.
Well, they did show that Boo was smart enough to do that prior. He left a
right, but Oob also knows that too, and I think he mentioned in one of the pages that he's making a gamble that Boo doesn't have anymore underneath the ground.
Right. So I guess that's what it's going to kind of come down to, because I don't think Boo's recovering from this attack with his main body.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Like this looks like with the new panel, you can see Boo sort of disintegrating in the attack, but you're not seeing the aftermath of it yet. So it could be that this is something that completely just destroys Majin Buu. But if it doesn't completely destroy him, the way that Oob still could win at this point is that Majin Buu gets kind of blown the fuck away, and kind of like when Vegeta did his self destruct and Majin Vegeta form. Majin Buu did not recover from that very quickly. It took him a little bit to recover piece by piece. So if
Right.
Majin Buu has to take forever to piece together himself, Oob could tell the tournament judges, "Hey, look, it's been 30 seconds. He's still recovering. I win the fight."
Right. But that's true. To kind of play devil's advocate here, when Majin Vegeta did that, Buu didn't actually have specific pieces of himself laying around waiting, because all of his active pieces were in one area, so they were all basically in simplest terms, all of his cells that could regenerate were in shock at the time. So they were kind of unstable, and they were like, oh fuck, what the hell? So they had to chill for a while before he could recover. But in this case, where Majin Buu has placed cells all over the place, or he could have possibly placed cells all over the place, there's a big chunk of the arena that wasn't really hit by the blast. There's at least like a crescent moon shaped part of the arena where Oob is standing that wasn't hit. And in that case, he could pretty much completely recover from that.
That's
within
true.
A few seconds.
So the big question is whether or not this Majin Buu would have been smart enough to do it, because there's two Majin Buus in the story. There's the fan nicknamed Zenbu, who has absorbed so many different fighters, including the main Deep Dragon Ball Z cast, that he's not only extremely powerful but incredibly intelligent. And in his fight with Tien, absorbed him with the Mafuba wave into a little inflatable raft, if I remember correctly. He absorbs him into that, and yet Majin Buu had placed a small piece of himself on the tournament ring, expecting some sort of attack like that in order to prevent himself from being completely taken out of the picture. So that Majin Buu is smart enough to do that preemptively. I don't know how smart this Majin Buu might have been to do that, and if because he did do it. Let me go ahead and say that he did do it in the fight. That's why we're speculating on this, because Oob was hit with the magic beam to turn into candy by Majin Buu, but yet he reflected it right back into Majin Buu's face and turned Majin Buu into a giant watermelon. And the reason that Majin Buu was able to break out of it and keep fighting is because a small piece of him that was left behind rejoined with the watermelon and recovered Boo from being a giant piece of fruit. So that's how we know that this Majin Buu was at least somewhat smart enough to do that. But he's also very, very stupid, based on some of the dialogue that's been going on. Like, he was almost tricked by Oob into going and hiding for 30 seconds and then giving up on the fight by the technicality. So
Right.
the question is, if he did it before, was he smart enough to do it again or to do it multiple times, or did he only do it the one time and then he was just not thinking about doing it again after that?
I think I can kind of explain it because they had that whole scene a little bit before that where Zenbu was going around and implanting memories into everyone's head, and he also told Fat Boo what to do. So I'm thinking he's too stupid to do it again, but I'm willing to be wrong, because I think it's one of those things where he had a good idea from Zenbu, he did it, he played his cards thinking that he wouldn't need to do it again because he saw himself get turned into watermelon. He says, "Haha! So that's what I needed that for." And so he reveals all his cards because I think 4 or 5 copies of himself came out of the ground to turn himself back into normal from the watermelon. So I think he basically played that card and revealed that he had multiples all over the place, and basically retracted all those multiples, and now they're all basically in the same body. That's how I see it, but it's possible he didn't call them all back.
Right, like you're saying it's possible that he's dumb enough to basically give up on keeping his special trump card continuing.
Yeah, he's basically dumb enough not to leave the pieces. Because, there's no negative side effects to him leaving those pieces up for too long or anything. It's not like they degrade.
Yeah, and it's not like they add like a power that he needs for this fight.
Right.
But
So
the question
yeah,
is whether or not
yeah,
he's just the question is whether or not he's smart enough to keep it doing it.
right. Yeah, and I really don't think he is, because if he's stupid enough to almost fall for that fucking hide and seek game, then yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he had to think about it for a moment, like, wait a second, you're trying to trick me. You know, it's this is of course the fat Majin Buu, the very first incarnation that we see in the show. Not Kid Buu, the original incarnation of Buu, and as far as the timeline chronologically
That's
speaking.
why I call him Fat Boo, because Majin Buu doesn't tell you shit.
Wow. Fat Buu Majin Buu. Yeah, the Fat Majin Buu. He's the original Fat Majin Buu with all the power that he fought Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Majin Vegeta with. Um, but for all his power, he's still a fucking idiot. So it's like, Oob, on the other hand, his disadvantage is that for all his power, he's still human, and he doesn't have the regeneration capabilities of Majin Buu. He doesn't have as much of the inherent magic. The only way he was able to use a little bit of magic is because that implanted memory that Zenbu gave him. So it's he has the limitations of a very strong Dragon Ball Z fighter, and the fact that he can do overwhelming attacks, but if he gets hit by something, he can't recover from it very quickly.
Yeah. I think one other thing that's possible, but very unlikely, and I think if he did go this route, it probably pissed a lot of people off, is in the page that he made where Oob was trying to trick him into doing the hide and seek, and then he gets pissed and releases that cloud of smoke. It's possible that that cloud of smoke got released into another part of him or something, or had fragments of him in it. Like he basically used it like a smoke screen to release more pieces of him. But I don't know.
Maybe. I forget. There wasn't the cloud of smoke that way that evil Majin Buu arrived?
Yeah, I don't. They didn't really explain how in the fuck that happened, but yeah, basically, Hercule Satan went to basically kill Boo, but ended up, befriending him and cooking for him, shit like that.
It was when Hercule got shot and Majin Buu was like crying and he was trying to heal him, but then he couldn't calm himself down, and then he started releasing a lot of smoke.
Well, I think part of it is because there was a mental schism, because part of him wanted to be good like Hercule, but then anytime something bad happened to the people he liked, he got evil thoughts in his mind and wanted to do bad things. And the good Boo didn't want to do that, and because somehow magical abilities allow you to split personalities into different bodies.
So I was asking you, do you think there's a possibility that we might see evil Majin Buu arrive in the story?
As I said with the cloud stuff, it's possible, but if he did that, I think it would be too much of a Deus Ex Machina type of shit. Because while he doesn't necessarily have to follow the universe exactly, I think it's going to be too much of a departure. The way if he did play it off that way, it might be too much of a departure to make it believable. Because Boo in this incarnation doesn't have Hercule to try and pull him around to be good, so it won't have that mental schism like I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I don't think it's gonna happen, but you know what? He's probably done weirder shit.
Now here's a question, and this one might help decide on who will win the fight. Who do you think would be a better matchup for Goku in the next round of the tournament, Oob or Majin Buu?
Which Goku?
The main Goku.
Okay.
Because Goku is right now set to fight whoever wins this round.
Now, are we talking better as in like a strong match, like he's got similar power levels, or interesting to see the outcome of it?
Both.
I think Evil Boo would be more interesting fight, because Evil Boo never really fought anyone besides Majin Buu, the Fat Boo. So we don't really know how strong he is, because basically all Evil Boo did in the series was Fat Boo tried to turn him into candy. Evil Boo used a push of hot air to return it towards Fat Boo, and basically used his own ability against him, and then ate him and absorbed him. So we don't know anything about Evil Boo.
Well,
So
you could argue that we do know a little bit. He's basically the same as Super Boo before Super Boo started absorbing everybody because his behavior and power level was around the same. So I think Evil Boo would more or less be what Super Boo is like, except Super Boo has all of the power because he's able to reabsorb the main Majin Buu.
right,
I
yeah.
can't imagine.
Evil Boo's weaker than Super Boo, but at the same time, I don't think Evil Boo has the same abilities as Fat Boo either. He might have different abilities because um, the fact that he's emaciated like he is because he's so damn skinny, kind of makes you think, well, it might have been longer than this that he's actually been, neglected because, when Kid Buu absorbed the Supreme Kai or whatever the Grand Supreme Kai, I can't remember what his title is, but the Fat Supreme Kai that basically made him into Fat Buu, it made him, not necessarily good, but it made him more childlike, so he wasn't necessarily as evil. He still did evil things, but it was more like he didn't comprehend that he shouldn't be doing them.
Right.
Because he doesn't understand. He was more innocent.
Right.
So at the same time, it's more like the mental schism happened then, and the Evil Boo had just been sitting off in a corner in his mind or something like that this whole time. But then the whole basically when he was seeing all this shit happen to Hercule, Evil Boo was like, "Kill him, do evil shit, kill him." He was like the devil on the shoulder type of shit. And then after Boo was like, "Get out, I don't want to do that shit," Evil was like, "Okay, fuck you, I'm getting out of here, and I'm gonna fucking absorb you instead," type of shit. So yeah, especially if we go off the games. If we go off of the video game, Evil Boo is pretty much just a copy of Fat Boo, and Evil Boo, I think, even has Super Kamehameha, and he has the the candy beam and the paralyzing beam shit, but we don't know if those are technically canon.
Now, what'd you think of the fight between Goku and Frieza in the comic?
The one where Frieza uses that mental trick to transport him to that ice planet?
Yeah. What were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was really interesting because it would kind of explain why Frieza's family is so well known because they lived for such a long goddamn time. And it kind of also it's somewhat unbelievable too because Frieza's probably one of my favorite characters from the series because I just like him. He's an evil fuck. And he's not stupid by any means, but he's not exactly the most intelligent person either. But I think he's smart enough to realize that someone would have fucking tampered with his memories because he's old enough to be around the block enough to understand because when Zenbu goes around and starts implanting memories, because he stops in Frieza's room and says, I'll make him think he talked to a friend like this, blah blah blah, or something like that. Yeah, I don't think that Frieza necessarily would fall into that category of believing that kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Well, do you watch a lot of Bleach or read a lot of Bleach?
Yeah, I've watched a lot and read a lot.
Do you remember? Did you ever read the character? I cannot remember his name, but he was a guy who, when you got struck by his sword, he would implant memories so that you would think that he was a person.
Oh fuck.
Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
he's the guy that turns Ichigo's friends against him by making them think that he's been a part of their life.
He's from the Fullbring arc.
Right. And at one point, he gets into a fight with Byakuya, and you see how he has actually learned how Byakuya's attack works because he implanted memories into Byakuya that he was the one that helped train him. So, if the attack or if the way that Boo's implants for Frieza work is similar to that guy, then I could easily see Frieza believing that for him it was always there. It's kind of like almost like a person that was affected by a time travel shift. From their perspective, nothing ever changed.
Uh, yeah, but it's one of those. These are guys. Okay, so yeah, Frit is like inherently psychic because I think he showed that ability in the series that he was able to lock Goku in that bubble or whatever and send it flying at the ground that it was going to explode when he hit, or right?
I can't remember. Which party? Who are you talking about?
Frieza and Goku on Namek.
What did he do to Goku?
He locked him in that fucking psychic bubble and sent him plummeting towards the ground. And right. Said that as soon as it collides with anything, it's going to explode.
Right.
And he manages to escape it without taking much damage. So, I mean, Frieza has psychic abilities, so you could argue that he might either be kind of immune to that, not necessarily immune, but also be able to notice when shit like that happens to him, He might, be able to tell things not right.
The only way I could see him being able to tell... The only way I could see...
You're thinking of Tsukushima, right? Tsukishima?
Yeah. The only way I could see him being able to tell would be is if you had somebody from the outside telling him, "Hey, this is weird. How did you learn about this?" And then Frieza's like, "Oh, do you mean this has always been the case?" And they're like, "When did you ever do that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I just thought that fight was pretty interesting too, because it was kind of like a what the fuck moment, because you didn't realize that it had the ability to take someone anywhere very quickly, instant transmission shit. But then he's also, got that psychic power type shit too, and it's just, whoa, what the hell?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was actually entertaining to watch it unfold, especially reading the comment section. There was a lot of people that were thinking that Goku was out for the count, because as soon as he started turning old, people were like, Goku's done. There's no way he can get through this. It's impossible for him to win now. And so, and it was funny because people were saying, Goku's going to curve stomp. This isn't fair. Frieza should be able to get a good fight. And then as soon as Goku started to lose, people started losing their shit, saying, this isn't fair. Goku, he's the main guy. Why do we care about Frieza? So, it's like you can't win with some people.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I thought it was considering that Frieza was going to get one hit shotted by Goku if they fought normal. It was a good way for Frieza just to kind of get a good fight in there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Considering he hadn't really gotten to fight anybody in the tournament thus far, really. So.
Yeah.
And I like how they not only kept the running gag of Goku one-hitting all of his opponents, but they kept the running gag that Frieza would never hit anybody. So that's that's where I say I like the way a lot of the story in the tournament unfolds. It has a very Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z style humor to it. Sometimes it's not quite the same, but a lot of times you can feel that essence of it in there.
Right.
So that's about it. We've kind of talked about this for a little while. Do you have anything else you wanted to add on to talk about Dragon Ball Multiverse before we end this particular topic?
Trying to think. Did we want to talk about the whole Broly being frozen in ice and shit?
I guess we can. What are your thoughts on Broly being frozen in ice and still maintaining his legendary form?
I think it's bullshit.
There we go. I don't think there's anything else to really be said on that one. But you're more than welcome to go further into detail into why you think that the ice is bullshit.
Yeah, it basically just goes back to the whole not mastering the form like Goku does. Because while Goku couldn't fall asleep while he was a Super Saiyan and maintain the form, he definitely would have been the best person that could. He would have been the most likely person to be able to do it.
I thought he did. I thought he did fall asleep while Super Saiyan.
No, he just had his eyes closed, and then Krillin threw a rock at him, and then it hit him on the forehead, and he's just like, "Ow, dude, what the hell?"
Oh, really? Because I could have sworn that they were sleeping as Super Saiyans.
No. Actually, no, they weren't.
Him and Gohan, when they were relaxing for the 10 days, I thought there was a time period where they were, like they were so well adjusted to being Super Saiyan that they just like maintained it.
Well adjusted? No, they weren't. They were breaking glasses in the house, and Chi-Chi was getting pissed. Are you kidding me? No.
Well, not well adjusted in like the way they control their power, but well adjusted in the sense that like they would feel normal.
No. Yeah, see, that's the event I was talking about too. Is that they were going fishing with Krillin and stuff, and Gohan and Goku were laying down, and Krillin was thinking, "Holy crap, he's able to do that while sleeping," but he didn't realize that he wasn't actually asleep. He just had his eyes closed because he'd only literally just laid down. And then Krillin was like, "I bet he could catch this rock if I threw it at him because he's so good now." And he threw the rock and it hit Goku right in the forehead, and he's just like, "Ow, what the hell's wrong with you, man?"
Now here's the question. Why did the rock affect Goku? Considering that Goku, before he was a Super Saiyan, had a giant boulder from Frieza thrown at him and crushed him, and yet he like jumped through it and split it and cut it in half. Why did a small rock hitting a Super Saiyan, almost Super Saiyan 2 Goku in the forehead by Krillin, actually cause any sort of pain to him whatsoever?
I think it goes back to that whole thing about why Beerus got hurt by the bullet. Because his defenses weren't up and he wasn't powered up. He might have been in Super Saiyan form, but he still wasn't powered up.
Or, and bear with me on this, it's just inconsistency with the story.
That too, that's possible.
It's like how Superman can sit there and hold black holes in his fucking hands and turn back time, but still somehow gets defeated by like guys like the Toyman and Lex Luthor.
Yeah, and Doomsday.
Well, Doomsday, like, that was, Doomsday killed him by fighting him for so long that at night that Superman just got wiped out and exhausted at his full power. But, like, there's no reason that someone like the Toyman should be able to do any sort of damage to Superman. But yet, occasionally it happens, so...
Are we talking about Superman or are we talking about DVD here?
Dragon Ball. Or Superman. I know.
Anyways, though, yeah, the whole, yeah, and not only that, but I believe in the second movie when Broly lands on Earth, and I think he actually is frozen, because he lands, I can't remember how he lands there, whether he lands there in a rock or what, but basically he lands in the lake and he's frozen because it's winter there and the lake freezes over, but as soon as he passes out, he transforms back to normal. So, yeah, bullshit. Even within the own canon of the movies, like, because sure, the movies aren't canon with the main series, but they're canon within the movies itself. Even within the movie canon, that's not true. So, yeah, it's bullshit.
So you called bullshit.
I called major bullshit.
So the comic is ruined. Don't read it. It's completely worthless.
Fucking terrible. Burn it. DDoS the website. Fuck them.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, we're totally not being facetious and sarcastic.
Absolutely not. I don't believe in sarcasm. I don't even know what that is.
What is sarcasm again?
I don't know.
But how do you know you don't know?
Well, that's a good question. I would have to consult my attorney about that one.
Don't you mean your physicist?
Yes.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I think that's good for now. If we feel like talking about it more, we can.
So, okay, sounds good.
All right. That's it for this call. So let me go ahead and end it.